Hi, welcome back to Velshi and Rule. Former Vice President Joe Biden defending his political record again. Biden received criticism from fellow Democratic candidates about his remarks highlighting his previous work with segregationists in the Senate. The Democratic presidential frontrunner issued an apology this weekend.
Folks, now, was I wrong a few weeks ago to somehow give the impression to people that I was praising those men who I successfully opposed time and again? Well, yes, I was. I regret it.
All right, joining us now, Washington Post reporter Eugene Scott. Eugene, good to see you as always, my friend. What is the significance now about Biden apologizing in South Carolina?
Well, I think Biden understands what some of the recent polls have shown, and it's that he's taken a hit with some black voters because of his past stances on some legislative issues that suggest that his civil rights legacy is not as bright as he claims it is. He went to South Carolina because that is a state that he's really counting on to do well in so that he can move forward. And we all know that a significant percentage of South Carolina Democratic primary voters are African Americans. And so he's appealing directly to those voters, hoping they will keep him in the lead that they've given him since he announced his campaign.
Joe Biden has made the argument in the past. Things were different then. You're talking about a different time. A 2019 lens is different from, say, a 1992 lens. Is his history, is his entire political career going to be something he's forced to defend over the next 16 months, or is it going to be a positive for him?
I think he will have to defend his political history with some younger voters. I've spoken with baby boomers and voters who were into politics around the time that Joe Biden maybe made some of the decisions and comments that he made that he's now having to answer for. And they're more sympathetic. They understand the times then, and they understand that things have changed. But millennial voters, which is now the largest voting bloc that will be heading to the polls, and some Gen Xers don't necessarily have that historical context, or they do have it and it just doesn't matter to them to the degree that Biden may want it to. So he's going to have to appeal to the diversity of black voters and speak to them in the areas that they need to hear him from.
Right, and he still has a significant lead, according to new polling, amongst black voters. And when you look at South Carolina, the majority of African Americans who will vote in that primary are going to be, as you said, they're older. They're not the millennials in that particular instance. So this is an interesting road for Joe Biden to walk. It probably doesn't hurt him with the older voters who are more familiar with him and don't hold his history against him. If he apologizes, it doesn't cost him with that group.
It certainly doesn't. And while he is leading with black voters, Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris are making up ground, and he doesn't have the room and the time that he perhaps had in the past to continue to wait this long to apologize and to enter debate stages as unprepared as he did. He's going to have to convince younger voters that he actually can be the best president to carry on from the Obama legacy as he continues to point to after this Trump presidency.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.